Hey guys, Professor Bell, Comic Book University, and the Incredible Hulk issue number 9. Fantastic comic book. Even though the Hulk doesn't appear in it, even once, not for a single panel, doesn't happen. There's a little bit of green, but no Hulk. And yet it was still amazing. How could this be, Professor? Stick around, I'll tell you. But first, credit where credit's due. This is part 1 of Frozen Charlotte. Philip Kennedy Johnson is the writer. Danny Earls is the guest artist. Matthew Wilson doing the color art, and VC's Corey Petit on letters. Nick Klein doing the cover art. And a couple of variant covers out there. Feel free to check them all out. What's up? Okay, so we start. Oh, my apologies. Stanley and Jack Kirby are responsible for the creation of the Hulk, because hell yeah. I love when you get a reminder of something that happened earlier in the episode or the issue. This is one of those things where Banner and Charlie they're walking around doing their thing. They're in New Orleans. The comic actually starts out with this really rude chick hanging out with this one dude who's actually very polite. And you come to realize that sometimes being a jerk is better than being polite. I don't advocate for it, but in this one particular instance, I do. Because the chick who was rude got killed. The dude who was polite, he was assured that he'd be safe forever. And I'm like, well, there you go. See? Kindness wins the day. Then you find out what actually happened to him, and all I could think of was, yeah, that chick did die pretty quickly. I mean, like, you ever seen the original Cube movie? Like, just the opening scene where that dude just gets his wires right through and he just kind of falls into pieces. That seems like something where it's like, I think you'd be dead before you even realized it had happened, you know? I find that preferable over what happened at the end of this comic book. No spoilers, but holy crap. Holy crap. So, like I was saying, Banner and Charlotte are going through this thing, this graveyard in New Orleans. Gotta say it right. And it's cool because there's a thing being said talking about how come there are no bodies under the ground. For the most part, there are no bodies underground. Everything is just mausoleums for the most part. And I'm like, okay, so a bunch of, small banter, blah, 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 blah. Okay, good little factoid about New Orleans. Good job there, Philip Kennedy Johnson. I feel just a little bit smarter having read this, but what the hell does this have to do with the comic book? By the time you get to the end of the comic book, there's that very pointed reminder that should have saved a young girl's life, and yet. And I thought that this was incredible because the lesson that Banner gave to Charlotte could have saved her life. Does she die in this? I'm not saying. Does she live in this? I'm not saying. What I am saying is, you gotta read this comic book. It's an issue 9, and I'm salivating over it. Granted, a lot of it is just bronchitis, but nonetheless, and like everything's itchy on me. It's so annoying. Anyway, there was so much good about this comic book that I got to the end, and I was like, wait a second. The Hulk didn't actually appear. Wait a second. Oh, he's probably going to be in the entirety of the next issue. Awesome. But this is one of those things where it's like, I need to go back and start looking, like this one issue by itself makes me say, not only I should go back and look at other things that Philip Kennedy Johnson has done for superhero comics, I would be interested in looking at and probably reading stuff that he's done that has nothing to do whatsoever with superheroes. Because if this guy is able to write characters who are already known and writes them in a way that is different, somewhat different, and yet we still clearly and evidently recognize who they are, and kind of draws us more into the characters themselves, I can only imagine what he could do with brand new, fresh characters, and the stories that he could drum up, and where they would all go. I am so impressed by what I read in this. Just forget about it, The comic book is drawn in a way, guest artist, that I don't think anybody should have a problem with. I don't think anybody will have a problem with it. There are some parts in here that make it look more like an independent comic book than a standard Marvel or DC comic book. But because of the story itself, it fits so well. so well. Seeing the way that Banner's face is drawn, how some people will be talking and their eyes will be closed, and things that you just in general really shouldn't do unless you're trying to convey a specific emotion. And yet it was done so well. It was so perfect for this particular story that was being told. I'm telling you guys, I didn't think that I could be reading something that was as good as the previous Immortal Hulk run by Ewing. I don't know that this is as good as it. It's probably not, but I'm having a hard time finding distinctions as to why it's not because it is so different and so fun while being so dark and not like dark humor. No, 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 no. Very little of anything of that. I didn't see any in this particular issue that I can recall, but it's a dark comic book. There's some creepy stuff going on. Like there's one scene where you see the woman who's helping Charlie. When you see her, one particular scene, like if there was any doubt as to who this woman was, you see it so clearly from the beginning of the book. You're like, you see this one image, and when you see it again later on, you're like, holy crap, oh my God, no. And it's just perfect. Guys, I love this book. And I think you guys will love this book also. There's two other books I think you'll love, and it's my books. So the Kickstarter will start on the 1st of March. These are my books that I wrote, fantasy RPG stuff, teaching you how to make mazes and traps, teaching you how to do puzzles and riddles to help out in your campaigns, or just read it because you like the morbidity of them all. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. Like the video, watch an ad. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.